Today it's a showdown. CSM 1.0 versus CSM 2.0. Both of them are Decade drivers, but let's see what's different and the same.
It's morphin' time!
Hello, this is Soundout here, and here is the promised comparison video between the CSM Decadriver and the CSM Decadriver 2.0. So if you haven't caught my review of the CSM Decadriver 2.0, the K-Touch, and the extra card set, go watch those. This is just a supplementary video. But here is the comparison. I wanted to compare these because I think that while initially we were like, oh, it's not that much different, they're actually incredibly different. It's kind of astounding, actually. So looking at the actual drivers, first of all, the belt loops, the belt pieces are basically the same. Like, they're slightly different colored. Like, for example, this had a black nylon strap. This one had a gray one. I like the gray one a little more. It just kind of blends in better. But other than that, there's not too much there. The 2.0 had a dedicated K-Touch, so it's got like this nice Velcroed on piece that fits. This is the deluxe one I've had to unscrew to squeeze it over the CSM. I mean, other than that, those are essentially like the same piece, except this one has a bigger protrusion out here as opposed to this one for the functionality. But then you look at the actual drivers, they're a little bit different. So I'm gonna get them off the dies so we can kind of handle them. All right, first things first, right off the bat, you can tell the Decadriver has, similar to the deluxe one, a clear lens, whereas the 2.0 has this red lens. The red lens is meant to essentially look like the belt when it's, active, when it's transformed. But when he's actually holding it as a prop, it would look more like this. So when before Tsukasa transforms, it would be all kind of cleared out. So there is kind of, a sort of, excuse you, there's sort of a reason to have both. In terms of the actual like inner part, there is like this reflective strip inside, and that is the same here. It's just not as noticeable because the red. And then looking at the 1.0 again, you can see that they got the symbols in here, but this is a painted thing, whereas this is a clear plastic thing. So this one looks a little bit better. And then on top of that, the 1.0 has these painted circles, but they're flat. They're just flat, round. They're not rounded off. They're just flat. This one has the little like rounded part. And the extra ring part is molded in, while this is just a painted on sample. And so that's just like some of the surface level stuff. The camera iris part here, this is still like a die-cast ring like it was on the first CSM. And if you open it up to the inside, you can see that the detail is mostly the same. Like, it's still got that like inner, like this had a very light texture of like kind of that bumpy texture you'd find on old cameras. This one has a much more deeper one. It's like a deeper material cut. And the same thing goes for just the internal workings. In fact, let's get the center pieces out of here. And you can see the inner, this is the 2.0 compared to the 1.0. It's just a deeper like cut of the design. You can also notice that, essentially mechanically they are the same. So if you put the 2.0 on the 1.0's buckle, it still works as it should, and vice versa. But yeah, so there's some extra depth and detail to it. And then going alongside the actual buckle pieces, you can see that the 2.0 and the 1.0 are pretty much the same size. But notice one thing about the 1.0, you can see the seam lines. Like, you can see the line cutting across the top of it. And that's actually a little bit unsightly from some angles, but the 2.0 has completely smoothed that out. That's just something Bandai's gotten better at, is fully enclosing these things. In fact, this one's a little heavier than this one, even though this one has more sounds. This one does feel a little heftier, which is kind of funny. The other thing about it, you got three speaker holes. The speaker holes are louder, so while this one's plenty loud, this one, if we hit the button back here, this one's plenty loud. This one's a little quieter, even though it's got bigger speaker holes, and that may be because this one is slightly too loud, like it's obnoxiously loud. But minor things there. The symbol work around the edges, pretty much the same. The release button on the top, it's much bigger here, easier to push. This one's much smaller, harder to push. very minor things. They, once again, deepen the texture. Like you can feel it here where it's a little light here. They both still use 1 AAA on either battery cover. The power switch is here as opposed to being on the bottom, which also means it's harder to turn this one on and off from when it's attached to the buckle, whereas this one you could always just hit the switch down here like that. Electronically, they both have a music button. It's in the same spot. This one only has 2 music tracks. This one has 13. And then this one has a dialogue button. This one does not. This was actually the first CSM to include music. So it's amazing how we've gone from 2 to 13, even 14 when you include the Final Attack Ride Hibiki. So that's the basic physical differences. And sound effects wise, the 2.0 just has more than the 1.0 does in a lot of ways. The 1.0 does read up through drive cards though. So I wonder, does the 2.0 read any of the cards from the Neo Decadriver? Which, for those unaware, the Neo Decadriver was a updated Decadriver that went from the first 10 Heisei Riders to the first 20 when Kamen Rider Decade guest starred in Kamen Rider Go. You can see all the symbols there, which is really cool, and he even has a new K-Touch. This is the deluxe toy. It was a premium Bandai exclusive, but it did come with a bunch of cards that previously didn't exist because it's stuff that was post-Decade. And I wonder if we do get, a CSM Neo Decadriver, we will get a bunch more cards from post-Decade. But I'm curious, any of the cards from this work in this? Okay, so when testing this, these may not work. I have not double-checked any videos to really find out. So we're going to start with an easy one, just to kind of get this out of the way. We're going to try Kamen Rider Double, since he was right after Decade and he did appear in 2 of Decade's movies. Does not work. So pretty much, you can guess that anything else isn't going to work. Like if we try to do Drive, because Drive once worked, we'll throw Drive in, doesn't read. So the Neo cards are just not going to be useful in the 2.0. It's just the nature of how that goes. Now, while I'm not going to compare all of them, I do want to just show that the barcodes for the cards included with the complete selection Decade, they do line up here. Like, for example, you can see there, that's the same from the 1.0 to the 2.0. Where's Kuga? Kuga's the same there. Yeah, you can see the barcodes are the same. So pretty much the cards that were included are going to be the same cards as, what you would expect. Let's do an Attack Ride Side Basha. Yeah, so it's the same barcodes. The difference is just the driver has different sounds programmed for those barcodes. But between those, also another thing with the 1.0, the card set came with these cool binders. I wish the 2.0 had cool binders. I'm going to have like a ton of cards now. But yeah, so the 2.0 cards are basically the same, minus, of course, the ones that were never made. But, in terms of barcodes, if you have the 1.0 cards, they will work in the 2.0, even though the 2.0 comes with these cards. Since I know someone will ask, do any of the extra card set cards work in the 1.0 CSM? Let's find out about Violent Emotion Decade. Let's try Ultimate Kuga. Let's try Rising Ultimate Kuga. And we'll do Dogabaki Emperor. Stronger charge up. And now my Decade driver is on the fritz. It was reading something. Oh, that isn't correct at all. So yeah, the extra set don't work, and if they do, they don't read the correct sound, because none of these were programmed into that. So while I'm not collecting the Ultra Dimension cards from Ultraman Decker, I have one of them, because I bought the Ultraman Decker vinyl. And people have noticed that the barcode system is very similar to Decade, so let's see if it works in the CSM 2.0. That's insane! How does it know the sound? I mean, it's a Dimension card. It shouldn't work like that in a Decade toy. I'm just playing. Here's the actual sound it makes. Yeah, it just has the same barcode as Emperor, which is kind of fun. If you have any Ultra Dimension cards, let me know if they match up to any Decade cards, I guess. I don't know. I almost want to buy Ultimate Dimension cards also so I can use them in this. But yeah, I'm not going to. That would be a use of money that would not be sound, says the guy that has a $300 Kamen Rider belt he's got 4 videos of so far. So the complete selection modification Decadriver came out quite a while ago, and while we're still waiting for a 2.0, I think we should try its cards out in the CSM 2.0 because a bunch of these should still work. Also, again, fancy little binder. Feisty little binder, is that what I'm trying to say? I'm not going to try anything that says Neo, even though they're like the same barcode. We're gonna roll through these and see which ones work and which ones don't. It's time for the end. Okay, I'm kind of impressed as the entire Diend henshin in it. That's actually really cool. This is the Kaijin version of Kamen Rider Diend's card from the Shinkenger crossover. So it's kind of insane that all the cards that came with the CSM Diend, the Neo Diend, and the Diend 20th, whatever it was that is any rider that, you know, was before double, is in this belt. And they pretty much all have unique sounds. With repeated sounds for like the Ryuki riders is fine because they had the same sounds. It's amazing. It's incredible they got the voice actor to record this many pieces of dialogue. This little driver has so many sounds in it. And now I have demonstrated every card that I know that I have that works with this. If something that I have works with this and I didn't know it, then that's the case, and we'll come back to it with the ride booker. But if I missed anything, let me know, because this is a ton of cards between what was included with this, what was in the extra set, and what was with the Diend releases. But yeah, that's all the cards I got right now that work with this thing, and I don't think there is any more, unless the 2.0 CSM Diend driver that's probably happening comes with something I'm not expecting. But that's all the cards for now. All right, let's look at the K-Touches. This is the original Deluxe K-Touch from 2009, since they never did a CSM 1.0 K-Touch. You can see this is the original mold, power switch on the bottom. And this is a single press interface. No slidey. And then with the CSM one here, switches on the back. Let's turn it on. Slidey. So, you know, whatever we're doing there. Now, in terms of mold, they are definitely different. You can see, let's see if I can tilt the camera up a little bit on this. You can see that the overall shape is about the same. They're roughly the same size. I think this is a more accurate pink color. Or magenta, excuse me. But you can see it's a little bit longer, a little bit wider. Screen is a little bit bigger, just a little bit, but they are roughly about the same size. In terms of the button on the back, this button is much bigger than this one. This one's much more subtle. You'll also notice that this one doesn't have any extra buttons in the back. This one has the button to activate that extra form for the complete strongest and that sort of thing. Now when we turn them on, we'll note the differences in functionality. So here is the number pad card for the complete selection. Here's the number pad card for the deluxe. They look about the same. The complete selection uses these little notches to tell which card is inserted, whereas these had upper notches, which means these are uglier cards because they got this little punch out, whereas these look a little bit nicer because there's just a little bit of notch there, and then there's no notch on this card, and there's a notch on the bottom of this card. The notch system changing to the side reminds me of the K-Touch 21, which while a deluxe release had these little notches here so that it knows that it wants to do double through 0-1, or there's a little notch up here that tells it to do Kuga through Decade, which I always liked about the K-Touch 21 was the fact it had both of those. But this one still worked like the
K-Touch 21.
Still worked like the deluxe where you couldn't swipe. You had to do one at a time. That sort of thing. So it's pretty cool, but it's a similar notch system on the CSM, even though it's still designed like the deluxe. So yeah, if we insert the number pad in here, see, this one just calls up the name of the rider, whereas this one, when you punch it in, you get different voices depending on what code you put in. So a little bit different functionality. But when you get down to it, pretty much these two act roughly the same. It's just you can push multiple times with this. So you can hear the variation in sound. If you press this,
Kamen,
whereas here, Essentially, this one plays that little jingle, then says the name. This one says the jingle while saying the name. It's a little bit more show accurate in that regard. And that's in general, I think this is more show accurate than this, but this was also honestly one of the better toys from the past. I do think the CSM K-Touch is totally worth it and is the fancier option. It has more accurate sound effects and it looks just overall a bit better. Plus the extra bonus sounds when you attach it on and off the driver versus this, which doesn't make any noise at all. It is a nice upgrade, and it's kind of a shame that they didn't sell the CSM on its own, because I think some people may have just wanted a CSM, and they said, nope, you got to buy the whole driver. But other than that, this is a worthy upgrade for sure. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I do think the CSM 2.0 Decadriver and K-Touch is totally worth the upgrade, but it may not be for everybody. If you already had the CSM 1.0, it's hard to justify this because it does come with a lot of the same cards, but boy, the sound range is incredible. And honestly, while I was a little hesitant at first, I'm definitely not regretting my purchase whatsoever. And I hope that these series of videos has helped anyone make the decision if they were waiting for reviews to find out, is the 2.0 worth it if I have the 1.0? Now, if you have a deluxe Decadriver, get this thing if you love Decade enough, because honestly, it's just a full upgrade. Plus, it is also nice to get a Decade driver with a fresh scanner, because notoriously these things have scanners that tend to fritz out after a while, and hopefully this has been redesigned slightly to not have that problem. And ultimately, that's the end of the video series for the now. There is a complete selection modification ride booker coming. I have it on order. I'm looking forward to getting it, and there will be a review of it, so be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep up with future uploads. Check out some other videos on the channel. We definitely do more than just Kamen Rider here. Lots of other things in the works as well, so make sure to stick around because honestly, I got a lot of plans. Also be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed this, leave a comment down below and tell me anything I may have missed between these series of videos. I will try to come back and catch everything with the ride booker. And that's pretty much it. So check out Hero Club at hero-club.com for Kamen Rider news and more. I'm my mouse and graphic designer on Twitter at darkcloud643. And until next time, this is Soundout saying goodbye.